How can we obtain salt from seawater? Here we have a bowl of seawater with salt dissolved in it. We know it is a homogeneous mixture because we cannot differentiate between the boundaries. Now this mixture is made up of two things. We have water which evaporates, and then we have salt that does not evaporate. So when this salt water is heated, what would happen is the water would evaporate, leaving behind the salt. So here is a bowl of seawater with salt dissolved in it, and you've begun to heat it up. As you heat it up, the water evaporates. The salt cannot evaporate, it is left behind. So water keeps evaporating, and after all the water has evaporated, what remains behind is the salt. So this method can be used to separate salt from seawater. So when we go back to this question, how can we obtain salt from seawater? By the method of evaporation. In the next slide, we'll see another example of evaporation. Now the ink that we use for writing is basically made up of two components. You have a dye that is dissolved in water. If you have a blue ink, it is a blue dye in water. If you have a black ink, it's black dye in water. If you have a red ink, it's red dye in water. So ink is basically a homogeneous mixture of water and a dye. So here we'll take an example of, say, red ink, and we know red ink will be made of water, and in that water you would have put some red dye to give it the red color, and here you begin to heat it. Unlike the earlier where the seawater was heated directly, this ink is heated over a water bath. This arrangement is called a water bath. It is not heated directly because if it were to be heated directly, it will get charred and burnt. So it is slowly heated over a water bath. And as you keep heating the ink, the water, which is volatile, begins to evaporate, leaving behind this dye, the red ink here. So this proves that ink is a mixture of two or more components. And the second point, we can say that ink can be separated by the process of evaporation. Now, evaporation is used to separate mixtures wherein there are at least two components. One component is volatile. Volatile means it evaporates easily, and the other component is non-volatile. So one is volatile, one is non-volatile. The volatile in both these cases was water, and the non-volatile in one case was salt, and the other case was the dye.